Now, we all know that the launch wasn't the best with this iPhone. A lot of case manufacturers were left in the dark and had to adapt quickly. Most likely next time we'll see a lot of different ones. But if you want to buy a case with camera control right now, which are the best? S tier is the best and F tier is still the worst. Let's go. For the first brand, we'll go with Supcase. They have two different versions, the button on the UB grip and the one on the UB mag. The UB grip has it more or less flush with the case. There's a little bump but very subtle. Whereas with the UB mag, it's very big, relatively speaking. I think when you're taking photos, it does not really matter all that much, but it does when you're swiping across the button. Closer to completely flush is preferable here. You kind of bump against the sides with the UB mag, so I'd prefer they make these flush or close to flush with the case. They are very responsive though, and it's really easy to use. As far as the aesthetics of it go, they do have that pin design on the button, and you can't really see it from the side on the UB grip. I also did not have any accidental presses while holding the case. But with the UB mag, it's a different story. I did experience that a bit, and it's always in the way, no matter how you grip the case. Both buttons are clicky and are easy to press. A tier for the UB grip and C tier for the UB mag. Now, one of the first to come out with such a button was of course Spigen. They really nailed it. It's still my absolute favorite out of all of the cases here today. It's 100% flush with the case. I have never experienced accidental presses, and its design really feels like you're using the naked iPhone. They have not experimented with different designs and just followed what Apple did, which is the best way in my opinion. Really responsive button for both clicks and touches, does not impact the design of the case, and even though like most of these the button is sort of loose in there as it needs to move a little, it did not fly out once when removing the case, which is also a great feature. This button is also among the clickiest of buttons for the camera control, and there is very little resistance while pressing it. S tier. The other one from Spigen is the Tough Armor. It works exactly the same way as the other one from Spigen, so it's great too. But here they still maintain that cutout design because the case is shaped towards it with a gap for the button. Looks cool, and I did not notice any negatives. I think it may even work better this way because since the case is thicker, the button would have to be further from it too, possibly making it less responsive. This is why we also saw that huge cutout on some of the other cases in the past. Since these sides were so huge, they really couldn't solve it. Now here it's a good solution and exactly the same as the other one, so S tier as well. ESR only recently added the camera control button, and this is the classic hybrid case. The button has a similar design to that one from Spigen, although it's definitely smaller in its design. While the Spigen one almost takes up the whole side, here it's a lot slimmer. I must say, for the functionality of the button, it does not matter all that much, since the material is pretty much the same. But as far as the clickiness goes, Spigen is definitely clickier. And on the ESR, you have to press a little more firmly to really make it work, which would be a negative since when you want to take a photo, it would introduce a little bit of shakiness. If I would have to describe it, it's like the ESR requires 40% more effort to press in comparison to the Spigen one. It's a lot better than having a cutout, but it's still not among my favorites yet. B tier. Now, the Rhinoshield cases are now outfitted with their newest camera control button too. All of their buttons are clicky, and I'm glad to say that the camera control button has that effect too. It's very snappy and easy to use. It's one of those cases where you almost want to use the camera control button, and I say almost. Completely flush with the case, you don't feel the button while holding it. Its design is also really sleek along with the case, and it's also a lot slimmer than the first S tier pick, the Spigen Ultra Hybrid T. So it really proves that the thickness of the button does not really matter as much as I thought it would. It's relatively easy to get it out there though, and it did happen to me once already. Still, it's an amazing button, and I will definitely put this one into S tier. Now, one of my favorite cases, the TineeOwl. I did delay this video twice for this case, but it really wasn't meant to be. As the first time I ordered it, it was still the cutout, and on the second time it was for the 16 Pro instead of the Pro Max, which was my own fault. As these come from the USA, I really couldn't order it again and do it in time. So take my findings with a grain of salt. The button is completely flat, feels really good as far as the material of it goes, and from the videos I've seen about them, they work perfectly fine. You will feel the dotted texture next to the button though, but it won't really affect the functionality of the button. I do think the black color on this sand colored case looks awful though, and they really should color match these, as this is just not a good look. Still a great case, and now with a good camera control button. Sadly, I cannot rank these though. The Mous cases, oh boy, everyone was hating on that camera control cutout, so they had to act quickly. It's a lot better than the cutout for sure, although I really did not dislike it all that much. They did opt for a rubbery finish on the button itself, which gives more control, but also the effect as if it's a little less responsive overall. The button is clicky, but you can also notice it has to be pressed a little more firmly here, which is a similar situation as with the ESR one. And for the camera control function, that's just not the best. I think the lighter this button is pressed, the better for taking photos. Then again, it will activate the camera too, so there needs to be a good balance in order for it not to activate without you actually wanting it to. I think they would have scored better if this was easier to click and not that rubbery / silicone-like effect to slow down the movement. It also comes off a lot, it's really loose in there, and it's sort of a pain to insert it every time. Also, for losing it, it's not ideal. C tier. Then the dBrand Ghost, the most unique looking camera bump out of all of them. That slight texture looks like it would impact the usability, and it also does, a little bit. The clickiness and ease of use when taking a photo is fine though, but the touch capacity is worse, I'd say. It's now not as responsive as I would have hoped. It sometimes does not even register swipes, which could be annoying if you really use this button a lot. It works better the harder you press while swiping, but it's definitely less responsive overall. The design looks awesome though, and I love the fact that they've included that too. Not just how it works, but also how it looks. It's really whatever you prioritize here. But if you want both swiping and clicking to be excellent, this one ain't it. C tier. Now, dBrand of course also has the grip case with another version camera control button. This one is much better, definitely the better option out of the two when you prioritize the camera control, but it's still not as great when swiping or using the touch functionality. It stutters a little once in a while, and it just does not feel as smooth as should be. The photo taking ability though, meaning how clicky and easy it is to press, is amazing. And really nothing to complain here. The looks are also unique, so that's good, and just like the other one on the Ghost, they both are flush with the case. B tier. Then the Rebel case, the last one I was waiting for, and I must say it's worth the wait. It's both clicky and easy to press when taking photos, but also very responsive when swiping across the button. The size is the middle ground, with on the one hand the Spigen Ultra Hybrid T, which has that huge button, and the Rhinoshield one on the other. This is the perfect in-between, I'd say. It's also a little recessed in there, which is even better than the flush variant because it makes it harder to have accidental presses. Really amazing job once again. The material on there isn't as smooth as the Spigen because here it's like 25% more silicone-ish. A little difficult to describe, but like you can feel there is a little resistance on there, albeit ever so slightly. Attention to detail is top notch. S tier. Benks also has the camera control button now, and it works good. Its design is 100% flush with the case and has exactly the same finish on the actual button, much like the Rebel case, where it's a perfect blend between control and ease of use. Feels very responsive too, so it's great. Pressing the button to take a picture is a little harder though. You can feel while using it that you need to press a little firmer. If I had to describe it, it's like a mix between ESR and Rebel, where it's a little more difficult to press nicely, just like on the ESR, but amazing to use while swiping, just like on the Rebel button. I think for the Benks cases, it's really a must to have this camera control button, because the cutouts were not comfortable at all. The button is put in there firmly though, so it won't come out easily. Put these in A tier. Now, there is of course also the Aulumu cases. I think on all of these there is a slight issue, but nothing major. You see, when you slap this case on there, the swiping does not work, but let it stay on there for like 30 seconds and magically it works. Why that is, I have no clue, but it's very interesting to say the least. If you do wait for that amount though, it really works perfect. Clicks and response very fast, it's 100% flush with the case, and it's just very satisfying to work with. On my review of these cases, I had critique about this very case, where the backplate was too sharp with these slits. But they seem to have fixed that too, so you love to see it. Makes recommending these much easier. S tier. The Otterbox Lumen looks very similar to the Ultra Hybrid from Spigen, although there is differences. The case itself also features a silicone side, but I got to give it to Otterbox for being overall a grippier case. The camera control button is much smaller than on the Spigens, not to say that this is less responsive or anything, because they seem to be exactly the same, but the biggest difference I noticed was the clickiness of the button and the fact that the Lumen button is deeper in the case, which is a very subtle difference, but very obvious once you compare the two side by side. Overall speaking, the button performs very well, and I'd say they are equal, S tier. And check my dedicated video comparing the two for more of the case aspects. I always thought the Apple original cases had something very unique, but since my drop test, I just cannot look at them the same. Of course, Apple, unsurprisingly, had the button first, but it's smaller than the Spigen Ultra Hybrid T, and not the wow factor you would expect with an original Apple experience. I thought other brands did a better job at it than Apple, and that is saying something. It's on par with Supcase's UB Mag button. And since I ranked that C tier, it's not coming close to the excellence of some of the S tier contenders. It is completely flush here though, and it does look good from a design perspective. So it's very usable still, just not one of the best. The button is very snappy though, so there is no issue taking photos. A tier. And of course there's the wannabe buttons. Now, more brands do this, but the first I saw these were the Ghost Tag nautical ones, where there is a button, but it's only used to snap photos. You cannot use the touch functionality. So if it's only the photos you're after, they could work perfectly fine, but if you're searching for the full package, you can skip over these. Now, I can go on and on about how it feels, going into detail about every little thing, but that's just not my style. When I watch a video like this, I want to know what's the best and why quickly. So if we take a look at this list now in comparison to my overall ranking tier list, we can see that there is overlap. The Spigen Ultra Hybrid T is S tier on both, so both the case and the button are considered awesome. Now, I did not rank Rhinoshield over on the other one, but if I would have to rank it, I'd say a solid A tier. Because it is a slippery case, but nothing to complain other than that. Now, the Gen 6 was already S tier on the other one too, so that's once again a very solid option. The Aulumu cases were ranked badly because they had that sharp slit at the backplate and just weren't really comfortable to use. Those issues seem to be fully resolved now though, so they did act quickly. You could consider these A tier overall now. The UB grip was already A tier and now S tier for the button, so this is another solid option. And the Lumen button is S tier, but overall speaking, it's a much more expensive case than the Spigen one, so I would still not recommend that one, even though the button is great. The Benks Armor Pro was and is still A tier, so that's probably the last I can fully recommend if the camera control button is a necessity. The rest may be good cases, but the button leaves something to be desired.